So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me. It's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
Before I bring Margaret on, I just want to say that I am a huge fan of this book and Margaret's work in general, and to give her a chance toward the end of the webinar to talk about what she has coming up. But I really do believe that this book, Ama Far Away, is a masterpiece. I was blown away when I got my copy. It is a reverso book, and I can't wait for Margaret to read it to you. This is her second published book, her first one being Maximilian Villainous, which is charming and cute and funny and very different from this book. And I love that because I like it when authors out and take on different subject matter. And Margaret is a valued member of our 12 by 12 community. I'm going to have you come on, Margaret, and say hello so we can get officially started. Hi.
Hi.
Yay! Thank you so much for being here. And I also want to mention that we are on the tail end of Poetry Month. So I thought this was a really good fit for that, given Ma Far Away is written as a reverso poem. And I love this book so much. So I'm going to come off camera now and let you read the book to us, and then we'll get into Q&A.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for the glowing intro.
You're very welcome.
I've been a part of 12 by 12. I went back, I had to look, and I think my first time was in 2013. Is that, I don't know if that's when it started or.
It in 2012, but that's
okay.
Right to me, yeah.
Okay, so anyways, been a member for a long time, and it's been very helpful and yeah, just a really great community to be a part of. So this is Ma Far Away. It came out in January from Bloomsbury, and I'm not really a poet or anything, so this was my first foray into poetry, I guess. I used a structure and it happened to be a poem, but anyways, and it was illustrated by Tracy Subasek, who is really wonderful. I wanted to show you since she did it, and I've been so impressed by this, but I don't know if you could see this. So anyways, this book is about a girl named Kylie who is growing up in the United States, and her ama, which is the Taiwanese word for grandmother, is living in Taiwan. So they don't see each other very often because they live so far away. And so let me just show you the undies. So this is one of my favorite things that Tracy did with this book, because it really shows how far away Kylie and Ama live from each other. There's Kylie in San Francisco, really close to where I am now. And there is Ama on the island of Taiwan, and then the ocean in between. And then another thing, I wanted to show you the end papers that she did. These are little doodles that actually you can find them in the book, and they're different cultural things, and you can see them. They're labeled in English. And then if you flip to the end of the story, it's the same things, and they're labeled in Mandarin, which I thought was really a great addition to this book, because for people that want to learn Mandarin, they can use this to learn a little bit, or if you're a Mandarin and you want to learn English, you could do the same thing. Here's the title page. The story begins with Mama and Kylie headed off to somewhere. It was time for a visit. Kylie squirmed. We can eat yummy new foods. We can go to pretty new places. We can have an adventure. And we get to see Ama. It'll be so fun. 100 butterflies took flight in Kylie's belly. Kylie and Ama didn't see each other often enough. Every Saturday, they connected by computer. Ama told stories to Kylie. Ama sang songs to Kylie. Ama showed snacks to Kylie, always speaking simply and slowly. But Kylie jittered and jiggled in her seat. Video chats weren't the same as real life. One lived in Taipei. One lived in San Francisco. Oh, why do we have to go? It's so far away. When they arrived at the Taipei airport, Ama. And if you can't read this, it's a little sign that Ama is holding with Kylie's name on it. And I'm actually not sure what that Mandarin is because I can't read it. I should have looked it up before I came on, but it's probably some sort of welcome. Kylie held tight to Mama. With ears pricked, she listened to Ama talk. Kylie kind of understood. And this is one of my favorite parts about the book is that it's got some actual Mandarin characters. You could see a conversation going on between Mama and Ama, and it just adds an extra layer into the book for a little Easter egg for people that can read Mandarin. In Ama's apartment, everything seemed strange, yet the faces were happily familiar. Aunts, uncles, and cousins, actual or not, packed a banquet for Mama and Kylie. 10, 12-person tables and over 9 courses of steaming food. Gulp. Kylie ate rice. Finally.
I'm surprised to hear you say that this was your first foray into poetry of any kind, because literally, like I said, this is just a masterpiece. But I'm guessing you didn't start out planning to write it as a reverse, or maybe you did, but can you tell us a bit about the process of going from a first draft here to this? Because I just can only imagine how much work it was.
Sure. I actually did plan to write it as a reverso. If I go back to my concept of this idea of a granddaughter and a grandma who don't see each other very often, I did write that story as a prose story, but it was very different. It was like a fantastical story that I wrote really early on when I started writing, like in 2000. I started writing in 2010. So I think I wrote that story in 2012. And it just never felt right to me. And I think it just because now that I look back on it, it just didn't feel all that authentic. So I put it away. And then I had read this poem. It was a reverse poem called The Lost Generation by Jonathan Reed. And I had always thought it was so cool, but then I came across it again within the last few years. And I just thought to myself that I wanted to challenge myself to write a story out of a reverse poem. And so I started to search for ideas that might work, story ideas, because I know not every story is going to work in this type of structure. Like it had to be one where that moment of transformation was central to the story. Then I started to brainstorm ideas, and luckily this one, the story of my heart that I've been wanting to write since early on, came up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And I didn't actually know that I could do it because I'd never done anything like it before, but it actually worked. It's a pretty limiting structure, obviously, because it has the constraints of having to work forwards and backwards. But I think it worked for me because sometimes when I have too many choices, I tend to get analysis paralysis. And one thing that I love about writing picture books is that sometimes it can feel like solving a puzzle. And that's exactly how this one felt when I finished. But in terms of writing it, the first finding that right story structure was really important. And then after that, I had to break it down into chunks, because I think if I had tried to tackle it all as one story, it would have been really overwhelming. So for each chunk, like I thought of different, I guess, episodes or steps in the story. And so I just looked at that specific chunk at a time. So for each chunk, I thought about how Kylie's feelings might change from forward to reverse read. And because this was inspired by, I had to do a lot of remembering of emotions and places and things. And then the things that I couldn't remember, because my memory is pretty bad, I had to supplement it with my imagination and putting myself in Kylie's shoes. And for each little chunk, like I knew like what the emotions were that I was trying to communicate. And then so I could imagine what kinds of things could happen that would fit into that emotion. And then, yeah. And then once I did that, it was really messy. I had this idea and then it took me like months before I even attempted it because I think I was really intimidated. And so I was in France with my daughter. It was her thing. So I was kind of like, I didn't have anything to do. I could have been a tourist, but I decided to do this. And I just had a notepad, and I just scribbled all over it when I had some time, just trying different things. And then when I found something that worked, I would like write it down and then go to other pieces. So I'd work on 2 to 5 lines at a time. I wanted to make sure it worked forwards and backwards whether it was through punctuation or through the meaning of the words or a change of perspective or context.
Wow.
And then what was that?
I just said, wow.
It was a lot. It was really messy. And then once I was more or less happy with what I had, I set up a Word document and with 2 columns, one with the forward read and then one with the reverse read. So I could see the progress.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Ooh, I'm geeking out. It's fascinating I never would have thought about writing it in chunks like that, but it makes so much sense because if you went all the way through her going to, and then not the return, you wouldn't know what you'd have.
Yeah.
So, but did you do those chunks in chronological order or did you just pick things and work on that and then?
Yeah. So because it's a journey. So I knew like it was going to be like 3 or 4 different scenes. And so I didn't necessarily like if I got stuck on one, I would just go to a different one. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it actually came out in chronological. But yeah, the first draft wasn't that great because I actually just went back to read it. And
it would make if you ever want to do like a tutorial on this, it would make this is really deep weeds writing process stuff.
Yeah, it definitely was. But yeah, it wasn't like I read it through it and I was like, I thought it meant different things. But then when I went back and read through it, I was like, yeah, this was really bad. But then because I think there's a limited number of options that could actually work, I went through my second draft and read it, and it was pretty close to what I ended up with.
Do it together so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12. 12 manuscripts. 12 by 12. 12 picture books. 12 by 12.